The Common Core State Standards emphasize complex text, and that's a real shift. Historically, a lot of reading instruction is focused heavily on the skills and strategies that we want kids to be able to use, and the text has sort of been left almost as an afterthought. What they've done is they've recognized that the child's experience with the text is really central to their development of reading ability, and so they're requiring that children work with text that's actually at what would be a grade level difficulty, set by some readability standard or Lexile or something like that. And so this notion in the future is instead of just having kids answer certain kinds of questions or do certain kinds of tasks with the text, they're being very specific about the kinds of text that kids have to be able to do that with, particularly in terms of how difficult the text has to be. A lot of reading skills youngsters can apply very nicely with a simple text, but they can't do so much with a challenging text. And so the idea is to sort of stretch the kids and get them to deal with the harder text. In the past, a lot of times if a teacher found that a youngster was struggling with reading, they would move them to easier text. And all of a sudden the problem would go away. And the idea was if the youngsters practiced enough doing the relatively easy reading, they'd make great growth. There's not a lot of evidence that that's true. And in fact, there's a little bit of evidence that would say that we need to stretch kids more and that they need more opportunities to deal with the harder vocabulary and the more complicated sentences and the other kinds of features that more challenging text provides. And so I think teachers are going to have to shift their stance away from, can I find an easy enough text to kids, to what can I give, what kinds of supports or scaffolds can I use that will allow kids to handle the really hard text. And that's a real pivot for teachers. That's something that they haven't had to do in the past. And so now all of a sudden they're going to have to read text closely themselves to figure out what's challenging about it. And then they're going to have to think of the kinds of supports or scaffolds that would allow a youngster, if they knew that or had that background or were aware of a particular relationship or whatever, that would now allow the youngster to actually be able to read that text and make sense of it. Without the teacher telling them what it says or reading it to them or whatever. And I think that's going to be really tough for teachers, but I think it's really important that we do that for kids. If we really want them to be good readers, they have to have those experiences of making sense of challenging text.